Alright, good afternoon, guys. Today we're going to talk about the parts of a plant. A couple of objectives that we're going to cover today. We are going to identify the functions of the flower, stem, leaf, and roots of the plant. And when we discuss the flower, we're going to distinguish the male and female reproductive parts of the plant as well and explain their functions. So let's go ahead and get started. Taking a look at this plant right here, the yellow and purple part, that would be the flower. Then we're going to move down to the left and we have the stem. And then on the right side of the picture for that arrow, we have a leaf. So now let's take a look at the functions of each part after, but there's one thing that we're missing and I want you guys to be able to think about what it is. What important part can we not see in this picture? And I'm going to hope that in your head you're thinking, the roots. So let's take a look at the roots. There's you a picture right there to the right. The function of the roots, what do they do? First off, they hold the plant in place. So the roots act as an anchor for the plant. They take in water from the soil and they take in food from the soil. So if it was not for the roots, the plant would not be able to survive because it would not receive the nutrients and water it needs to thrive in certain situations. So let's move on. What does the stem do? The stem's functions, the stem helps stand the plant up. The stem also acts as an elevator that takes the food and water to the rest of the plant. So in order for this to happen, the roots have to be functioning because the roots take in the water and the food or the nutrients to take it up through the stem to the rest of the plant. Why do plants have leaves? That is the question. So there's a picture right there of a leaf. So the leaf's job. The leaf breathes in air called carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen. So if you think about it, as humans, what do we breathe? We breathe in oxygen, right? So if we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. So in order for a leaf to receive the carbon dioxide it needs humans to function because we breathe out carbon dioxide and the leaf takes that in. So we have a relationship that's mutual. Also, the leaf takes in energy from the sun and turns it into energy for the plant. Now, from previous classes you may recognize this process as photosynthesis. Now we're going to move on, talk about the flower. There's a nice pretty pink flower right there. The flower, what does it do? The flower attracts insects by its color and smell, so insects can pollinate the flower. It also, after being pollinated, the flower is able to make seeds. So now we looked at the parts of the plant and the flower included. Now we're going to go a little deeper and look at the parts of the actual flower. So there's 4 parts of the flower, and we're going to go into the sepals, petals, pistil, and stamen. So the sepals are at the base of the flower, and they aid in protection. The petals, those are what attracts pollinators. So think the petals of the flower are bright. So that's what attracts your bees, your wasp, anything that pollinates a flower. The pistil, that's a female reproductive part. And then we have the stamen, which is the male reproductive part. And I like to remember that one by stamen, male, same thing. So just remember stamen is male, pistil is female. Now we're going to take a little look deeper, female versus male. So we're going to look inside the pistil. The pistil is the part that makes the seeds. So within the pistil, we have a stigma, a style, the ovules, and an ovary. So going back to the stigma, that is the top of the pistil where the pollen sticks to. And here in a second, I'm going to show you a diagram so you can be able to see these deeper. The style is a long tube that carries pollen through the pistil. The ovules are what becomes this actual seed. And then the ovary becomes the fruit. So just a little fun fact, if you think about ovaries in a flower, so how many of you have eaten an apple? pretty sure the majority, I would guess, an apple is actually an ovary that has not became a flower. So just think of it that way. Now we're going to look at the stamen. The stamen produces pollen. Pollen combines with ovules. Remember, the ovules makes the seeds. So the pollen combines with the ovule to form the seeds. So the ovules and pollen work together. Another part of the stamen is the anther, and the anther holds the actual pollen. So the pollen will stick kind of with the anther, kind of like the stigma. And then we have a filament, and the filament is what supports the anther and the pollen. So it's a long vertical part, and it has the anther on top of it. So here's the diagram I was showing you. I was going to tell you we're going to take a look at it. At the top you can see the bright pink, that's the petals. And then we're going to come in here, over here, this is the pistil. This area to the right, and then the stigma. The stigma right here, that's the sticky part that holds the pollen. And here's the style. The style is what transports the pollen and is able to get to the stigma. And then the ovary is right in this area with tiny ovules inside of it. So there's your female reproductive parts. And then we're going to move over here to the left. We have the stamen, which is what? The male part, because we have men right here in the name. Up at the top is the anther. And the anther is what the pollen sticks to. And then underneath the anther right here is the filament. And the filament is what supports the anther with the pollen on it. And earlier we talked about a sepal, and it aids in protection of the plant, of the flower. And this is it right here in the bottom at the base of the flower like we talked about earlier. So, today, our objectives, we covered the functions of the flower, stem, leaf, and roots, and we are now able to distinguish the male and female reproductive parts of the plant and explain their functions.